What's going on, guys? 8-Bit Glitch 79 here, and we've made it to the 5th day of the 12 nostalgic days of Christmas. I hope you're enjoying this series so far and hearing all the nostalgic memories from our fellow YouTubers and from myself, your host. So, with that, let's kick it off to our first guest this episode. It is Los from the Big Retro Show, and let's see what Los has to say for us.
Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Los from the Big Retro Show, and a big thank you to 8-Bit Glitch for inviting me on today's episode of the 12 Nostalgic Days of Christmas. Now, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about a game that's near and dear to my heart, and that is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! So I first began playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! At a friend's house. We would spend hours upon hours trying to figure out the patterns for each of the fighters. Now, every one of the fighters had their own patterns, and I think the favorite fighter of mine was King Hippo, and that's just because he was slow and you only had to knock him out one time. I also liked fighting Don Flamenco, and of course, who can not like fighting like Bald Bull and Piston Honda and well, Glass Joe. Nobody liked fighting Glass Joe, but that's another story, right? And so we would spend hours trying to figure out the patterns for these fighters. I wanted this game so much just based on playing it over at my friend's house. And so, of course, when Christmas rolled around, I knew what game I wanted. And that was, of course, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, along with another game that I really wanted, which was Bionic Commando. So my mom, getting tired of me wanting Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! And always asking her about it, she had, finally bought it, wrapped it up, and put it under the tree a full 2 to 3 weeks before Christmas, right? Now, me being like a curious kid, I was also just a regular mischievous kid, bad kid, if you will. I got home from school one day and I noticed that a gift was underneath the Christmas tree. And so this gift was in the shape of a Nintendo box. I mean, there's not very many things that look like a Nintendo box, that weigh like a Nintendo box, and that, just basically look like a Nintendo game box. And so I knew that those were the games that I had asked my mom for. And so I knew that she had bought them for me. And so, not wanting to wait until Christmas, what I would do was I would wait until my mom would go to sleep. Basically, everyone in the house would be asleep. And I got up one night, went down the hallway to the Christmas tree, got the game, opened it like ever so slightly, ever so carefully. I was careful not to tear the gift wrap paper, and I was careful not to tear the piece of tape that held the box together. And I slid the game out ever so carefully and played it for a couple hours that night. Now, I clearly had gotten away with it because nobody noticed that the gift underneath the Christmas tree had been opened. And so, carrying on that spirit, I would open those two games every single night and play them all the way up until Christmas. And I got pretty good at the games, right? But then I had one problem. There was one problem that I had to overcome, and that was acting surprised on Christmas morning. I don't know exactly how I pulled it off. Maybe I didn't, maybe my mom was just like, okay, this kid has already opened the gifts and whatnot. Maybe my mom knew, but I put on a surprise face. I thanked my mom, and I opened them on Christmas and played them, without having to sneak around opening these gifts every night. And it was just a glorious time. It was a glorious time in gaming. So every time I see those two games, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! In particular, but also Bionic Commando, I think about that year, that Christmas, where I would go down off of my bunk bed, walk down the hall, go to the tree, open the gift, and play it without anybody knowing that I did that. I know, right? Oh, this is sure to catch up with me. But anyways, guys, thank you very much to 8-Bit Glitch 79 for having me on today's episode. I hope that made you smile. I hope that made you laugh. Yeah, and if you enjoyed this little story of mine, hop on over to my channel. Give me a sub, drop me a comment. Well, actually, comment on this video. You need to comment on this video. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much, and I'll give it back to you.
Thanks, Los, from the Big Retro Show. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is an absolute classic. I remember seeing that myself for the first time over a friend's house, sitting there on the floor watching it, and I was just blown away by the graphics. I mean, it was the first time I saw these giant sprites on the screen, and the gameplay and the mechanics of it was just, like, awesome to me. It was just neat, and I just loved playing it so much. So thanks for sharing that, and happy holidays to you. So now we're moving on to our second guest of this episode. It's Moandain Designs, and he's got a great channel. Please be sure you check it out. It obviously will be linked down below along with Big Retro Show. And so let's take it over and see what he's got for us today.
Hey there, guys. Moandain Designs here. Here with help from 8-Bit Glitch 79. I'm going to be helping him out with his 12 Days of Nostalgia. So the game, the thing I'm going to be talking about that's nostalgic is a game. It's going to be this game, The Guardian Legend. Now, growing up, I grew up being raised by my grandparents, and we were not that rich. So to get a new NES game was a real treat for me. And in 1988, I think I saw all the advertisements and stuff about this new really odd game called The Guardian Legend. And I read about it, and I loved it, and I started doing as much research as like a 9-year-old kid could do about this game. And I wanted it. It's what I asked for Christmas, and my and I didn't really think I was going to be able to get it, just because we didn't have a lot of money. And Christmas morning, I woke up and I ran into the living room, and I saw a NES shaped present, or an NES game shaped present, and I knew what it was. I was a smart kid. I knew how to figure out what things were by the shape of the box and stuff like that. And so I just I knew it. I knew it was an NES game. I didn't know which one, but I had hopes, and I had to wait for everyone to wake up because I was a little kid, and I was up at like 4 a.m. and everybody else was trying to sleep in. So everyone gets up, and I start opening things up, and lo and behold, I get the game I asked for, and I had no idea how it happened or anything like that. I was just a little kid. I didn't really care. Well, so the real story behind this is how we got this game, and all the feelings attached to it now. It wasn't until years and years later, I think it was like 11 or 12 years later, my grandmother told me the story of how she got this game. And it was because she had saved up a bunch of money from skipping lunches. And I didn't know. I was a little kid. I had no idea how much she had sacrificed to be able to make me smile on Christmas. And I love her for it. I will always treasure this game. It will always have a special place in my collection. Not because it's a great game, and it is a great game, but because of everything that my grandmother did to give me this game and make me smile back in 1988.
Wow. That's an awesome story. It's so cool that you have such an emotional connection to a game like that. It's so powerful for you to share that story with us and with my audience, and I appreciate that. That's what these holidays is about, especially Christmas. It really makes us think about our loved ones and about times in the past, not even Christmas related, but just in general, just our memories of our loved ones and maybe some of the sacrifices that they have done for us because of the love they had for us. So I truly appreciate you sharing that, man. Guys, make sure you check out his channel and give him a sub from me, alright? Happy holidays to you, man. Alright, so now we're on to your host, yours truly. What did I pick this episode? Well, the shirt doesn't give it away this time. Nope, not really. So, what I picked was Metallica and Justice for All. Alright, so the reason I picked this album was, if you recall back when I talked about, I believe it was the second episode, when I was talking about the live album and the live concert of Iron Maiden, Live After Death, how that kind of sparked my interest in heavy metal. Now, I'd been listening and hearing heavy metal all my life growing up from my brother, and then I was listening to all kinds of music that my sister was listening to, my parents, and it was just music. But when I hit that Iron Maiden, saw that Iron Maiden concert on VHS, it really hit home that this is really my kind of music and something that really resonated with me. So back then, of course, we didn't have the internet. There was no YouTube. There was no I didn't have cable, so I didn't have MTV or any kind of TV to show me any kind of new music or new stuff like that. And my brother had always trying to get me into rock. Back in like 86, 87 Christmas, he actually got me a cassette player, tape player, and the first two Ozzy albums, Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz. And I was excited because I loved Ozzy, but it didn't, again, hit me that it's metal or anything. It just was Ozzy, and it was music that I liked, and that was it. So I had those to listen to. I had eventually recorded that Iron Maiden concert on VHS and watched it over and over again. But the only way I got to hear music was from my brother. And not that he wouldn't let me borrow any of his tapes or anything, cassette tapes or anything like that, but whenever he wasn't home, I would sneak in his room. He's finding out probably about this now, if he's seeing this. And I would take some of the tapes and run back to my room and play them in my small little tape recorder laying on the floor, looking at the inlays and reading them. Well, I distinctly remember grabbing And Justice for All, obviously the cassette, not the CD, and popping it in and hearing Blackened when it came on. It has that slow guitar, like fade-in intro, and then it, boom, kicks in with that riff. Oh my God, I was just blown away. And then I would sit and read the lyrics and everything, and I would say, wow, look at these guys. They look so pissed. What are they so mad about? Because you know what? I'm mad too. You know, I had a rough time in school. You know, I was a nerd, so I was picked on a lot and stuff. So, I mean, I would come home really angry all the time and stuff. So this allowed me to it was kind of therapeutic for me to have this aggressive music, and it just made me have a connection and made me have an outlet. To maybe it was the healthiest thing for me, you know, instead of having all that bottled up inside until it exploded, you know. So I had a way to release that, kind of like a valve. And this was the album that really set that off and did it for me. A lot of people necessarily don't like this album as far as the production because of the lack of bass. But I've grown to understand, I think, of an emotional reason behind that, given the fact they lost their bass player prior to this album. And he was truly a great friend of theirs, and actually one of the people that kind of drove them into the more melodic and orchestral structure of their music after the Kill 'Em All album. And you can see that progressed from all the way to this even leading into this album. And so I think it's kind of like an homage to him in a way, to not have the bass be so prevalent in this. Or it could be they were just jerks to Jason. Who knows? But either way, this album really connected with me. And every time I hear a song come on the radio or on XM from this album, I definitely have to listen to the whole thing through. If I park in the driveway and it's like only a minute into one of the songs, I gotta sit there until it finishes. I just can't do it without. So that's why I picked Metallica and Justice for All as one of my most nostalgic albums. So with that, guys, that concludes our episode 5. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell, like the video, share this around. Let's get some people watching this, and let's share into the memories. All right, guys? So until the next episode, I'm glitching out.